All right, welcome back to another episode of Generally Assembled, your favorite House Republican podcast. A growing stable of podcasts, by the way.
Absolutely. I think we were kind of the pioneers. We've got it rolling now.
We were the pioneers, and thankfully, not like on the Oregon Trail, we didn't die of dysentery. At least not yet.
That was. Did you play the Oregon Trail when you were a kid?
Of course I did. Yeah.
It was on the old computers.
Well, I'm older than you are.
That's right.
Yeah.
I forget that because I look older.
Well, I feel older. So,
but yeah, that was a big deal. That game was kind of cool.
I am older than you are. That's really going to stick with me.
Yeah. Well, listen, you brought it up.
Well, I did. Well, look, it's a cell phone, right?
Right. But the Oregon Trail.
Yeah, Oregon Trail. I mean, look, anything that was that funneled the rage of like early '90s elementary school into Buffalo.
Yeah,
it's probably how I got to the University of Montana. I figured that's the place where all of my dreams come true.
Because you were able to go buffalo hunting on the Oregon Trail.
I never went buffalo hunting, but funny story, I did see. They do have limited buffalo hunting in Montana.
Yeah.
At least back when I was. I
meant on the computer. The computer, you did the buffalo hunting on the Oregon Trail, and then we thought this could be great.
Yeah, well, I'll just finish my story. One time I was at the grocery store. It's an Albertsons out there, which are like the Giants around here, and I saw a guy pull up, and he had this giant thing draped, a thing under a tarp, and it's like on the back of his truck, one of those, not in the bed, but in the back of the bed, and pulls up to the back of the Albertsons, and I'm like, what the heck is that thing? So I look around the back, and a guy comes out, and he's got the butcher's thing on, take the thing off, buffalo.
Wow.
Buffalo. Just cut it up and sell it right at the Albertsons. All right. Well,
Buffalo's good. Have you ever had bison?
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bison
It's
burger.
good. Yeah, bison. It's good.
Bison steaks.
It's lean.
Yeah.
It's very lean. You got to prepare it the right way. But I'm a fan.
As Kramer once said, it's interesting texture.
I love your Seinfeld.
Well,
I'm more of an Office guy. That's what I.
I'm a big
more.
Office guy. Yeah.
I've watched some Seinfeld, but The Office I've seen every episode. And The Office is one of those things that's imminently. You can always go back and it's available and you can watch. It's on something.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so rewatchable.
It is incredibly rewatchable. Although I'd have to say the Robert California years are not the best material.
Well,
although I thought
when Michael Scott left, right?
Yes.
When Steve Carell, the actor, left and Michael Scott's character left, yes, it did. But there were some good Robert California moments.
There were
great
good
Jim
moments.
and Dwight moments after that.
Well, did you ever see the thing that was supposed to that didn't make the cut in the final episode, where the whole thing behind Kevin being a secret genius?
Absolutely, the how he bought the bar.
Yeah,
I did see that.
Yeah, that's
that
great.
would have been a fun ad.
I think people here should go look that up because it's a little funny story with Brian Baumgartner.
Yeah,
telling that about how there was going to be this whole extra part to the last episode and they cut it at the end
because it was already too long.
Yeah. All right. Well, speaking of The Office, you have a lot of grand plans that have been laid out here by the governor recently. Most close in the rearview mirror is his plan on energy, which creates a Pennsylvania-specific RGGI. While admitting other states shouldn't be setting our energy policy, Governor Shapiro says, well, we'll just do our own RGGI to get other states out of it. So basically saying RGGI's bad in the fact that other states tell us what to do. But the concept of taxing you and increasing your energy costs is inherently good. And then he's got this whole thing with diversification and AEPS standards that really do not provide real diversification. What it does is provides diversification in a way that will raise energy prices while not ensuring grid reliability, which is what really you need diversification for.
So it's bad policy, right?
Yeah.
And anything, Pennsylvania, the energy producers are some of our, they're some of our biggest drivers of the economy, and B, we have the natural resources here in Pennsylvania, particularly when we talk about natural gas. So anything that hinders that industry, in my opinion, is bad public policy. So let's set that off to the side. The politics behind this is really a case of the governor trying to satiate both sides and say, yeah, RGGI's bad, and so all the energy folks say yay, and all the environmentalists say boo, and so he says, oh, but I'll do this over here to try and. That's not going to work. I mean, I think the last couple press conferences, he's been shouted down by environmental activists. Like
Yeah.
they're a radical part of the progressive Democratic base that is not going to come on board unless you're extreme on that issue. I don't know why we're playing to that particular group of folks that they're not going to be happy with anything.
Well, and look, we're happy to have a conversation on energy. First of all, here's a couple of things that are going on here in Pennsylvania. One is that we are one of the largest energy producers in the world, Pennsylvania, especially when you take into account natural gas, which, by the way, is a cleaner form of fuel of energy, has allowed us to meet many of the federal and global standards for energy production and clean energy production, by the way. There is no reason why, and frankly, during periods of time during the gas boom, prices of energy here in Pennsylvania were incredibly low because we had that homegrown natural resource right here, heating our homes, turning the lights on, helping energy consumers. But once the government has really tightened its fist around the natural gas industry, prices have gone up. Pennsylvanians pay more. It costs more to run small businesses, to pay employees. There's no reason why Pennsylvanians, at least when it comes to natural gas, should be paying as much as they do. And we're happy to have, and this is something that Leader Cutler has said, a conversation about real energy policy. Energy policy that brings us back to the days of driving down prices because we have abundant natural resources here in Pennsylvania. But what we won't have a conversation about is ones about ways in which state government can raise costs on families and small businesses. And that's what this plan will do.
Right, and for someone who says that they're competitive as hell and are tired of losing to Ohio, this is exactly the kind of policy that makes you lose to Ohio.
Yeah.
Right? This is exactly the kind of policy that will force particularly those energy producers in the western part of the state to say, why are we doing business here?
Yep.
And again, all that will do drive the costs up. So many times we've talked about the natural resources that are here in Pennsylvania, the history of energy production that we have had here. Like you said, we're working on, as far as the natural gas and the stuff that we've done in terms of capping mines and some of the work in the coal industry, absolutely, of cleaning up the industry from a pollution standpoint,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's been done very well here. This is way outside of the scope of that. This plan, it basically amounts to a tax. It's an increase for every Pennsylvania family. Everyone needs energy. Like you said, it's putting more stress on the grid, not less. It's raising costs, and it does nothing to help the environment. This is bad policy all the way around. And I feel like the governor has to know that, but I also feel like he's getting pulled by that extreme radical left part of the Democratic Party.
Well, and look, the governor has two choices. He can lean in to our abundant natural resources, or he can lean away. And he's chosen to lean away. And look, back in a prior job, I did a lot of work in energy policy up in Susquehanna County. At one point in the last 5 years, Susquehanna County alone was producing between 5 and 10% of our nation's natural gas supply. 5 to 10% any given day. 10%. The entire natural gas produced in the country came from Susquehanna County. Mm-hmm. And you know what that meant for Susquehanna County? It meant six-figure jobs for technical positions. It meant family sustaining and generationally changing an economic climate. It meant more kids staying at home rather than going to Binghamton, Scranton, out of state, down to Texas or Oklahoma for energy jobs. It meant better roads. It meant investment in community assets and resources because all of a sudden you have growing communities that they want to have an infrastructure for. So, right, better tech schools.
There is no better example of what can be done economically through these jobs than what's happened recently in Pennsylvania. I mean, the last decade has shown us that's where the growth has been.
Right.
That's where the growth has been here in terms of the economy, has been because it has revived industries, the vendors that support. You know, I have one in my area, Coral Building Supplies, that build the structures for these gas fields. This has been the economic resurgence in Pennsylvania has come from this industry. The idea that of all times we would now try and rein that back, or kind of cap it, if you will, with this little cap and trade plan is just simply bad policy. And I think I think we have enough help in the legislature and our other chamber who recognize that. And look, it all ties back to our communities, right? Mm-hmm. You want strong communities. You have to have places for people to have good paying jobs. That's it. It's about a workforce, right?
Yep.
But also when you talk about the homegrown energy costs, everybody sees those costs.
Mm-hmm.
You know, everybody's bills are higher than they were a couple years ago. We need to reverse that trend, and not every state has the opportunity to do that with homegrown energy. We do.
We do. All right, let's talk about budget hearings wrapped up about 2 weeks ago. Now that we're back in session, another grand plan by the governor.
Yeah, the roof has been fixed, and we're back in session.
Well, it was fixed miraculously following the outcome of a special election, which kept the majority for the
we're back.
House Democrats. But I'm sure that's just a coincidence. Yeah. The truth is out there, as the X-Files might say. So budget hearings are over. A lot of talk, not a lot of plans, and a lot of cabinet secretaries who seem like they're left in the dark.
Well, they're not left in the dark. There's nothing to talk about. I mean, I think there's a lot of, the governor put out a lot of big ideas. Some of the ideas had a little detail attached. Some had no detail attached. And I think he's kind of thrown it all out there and is going to say, all right, where do we go? So I think this is a great opportunity for the legislature to then provide the direction and say, this is an idea that we can get behind, like the performance-based metrics in higher education.
Mm-hmm.
Now we'll put some details to it, right? We'll go ahead and start to figure out how we can do it legislatively, and hopefully we can work through the process. But you're right; it was a lot of talk, and I think there are two difficult times to do a budget. When you have less money than you need,
mm-hmm.
and when you have more money than you need, right?
Yeah.
Because with this idea that there's all this money out there, it's that temptation of start a new program, start a new program, start a new program. Instead of saying, look, if we have this much excess money out there, let's start to eliminate programs we don't need. Let's start to give some money back. I had an amendment on the floor this week about eliminating the accelerated sales tax so that businesses don't have to pay estimated sales tax, which is just a cash grab by the state government. And here we are trying to eliminate that. We actually passed it out of the House last year unanimously. The amendment was ruled out of order. I was able to speak on it and said, look, I hope that this is something we can get behind. This is the time to do it.
Yeah.
We can reverse that cash flow issue and actually have businesses take away this burdensome requirement and only pay for the sales tax of, I don't know, what they actually sell, right? Mm-hmm. It's a great concept. These are the things we need to look at, not just starting new line items that we know will very seldom go away.
So I just came up with this, and not that I wasn't paying attention to what you said, because I was. But how about calling the budget this? The 90-day Fiancé budget.
Ooh.
Which the governor gives his budget, no details, and now we have like 90 days to decide whether or not we want to marry it.
Well,
right?
I can say already right now, as the current budget is.
Yes, that's a no.
I'm a no.
It's going to be a no for me.
So
yeah, I get
this
it.
90-day thing, it's a no, but there are some things that I like. I mean, look, we've talked about this before. I mean, he brought up some Republican ideas in this budget. There's just no detail to it. But I think there are some things that we can work on. It's just the overall number is so high and so unsustainable. It kind of paints the whole thing as it's out of whack. It's up to us. Look, I'm not going to wait for the majority in the House or for the governor to start talking about things that are important to my constituents. I'm going to talk about them now.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think wherever those conversations meet with his budget proposal, then there's room there to work. And wherever they don't, I'm out, right? And so I'm sure so is he, right? Mm-hmm. So let's find those places where those conversations meet, and let's try and get something done. And for goodness sake, let's try and get something done responsibly and on time.
All right. Well, talking about responsibility, we got to talk about the most responsible man on the planet right now. That's Scottie Scheffler.
Scottie Scheffler. Scottie Golf. He's quickly become my favorite. I mean, I watched the second season of Full Swing as well.
Which he had almost no airtime on.
He didn't really. Had some great on the first one, but he's a class act. The way he plays, I was listening to, after he won the Players, Paul McGinley talk about his course management. Mm-hmm. It really is spectacular. The way he manages his game, even the one day when he was injured, And he's so humble. He's such a good role model. He's someone who, as my kid who plays competitive golf can look at, and both my kids who play competitive sports look at it like, that's the way you handle yourself in an interview. That's the way you handle yourself on the court. Of course, you don't lose your temper. You're not throwing clubs in the water. You're not doing some of the other crazy stuff you see. You're doing it the right way. He's a good man. Seems to have a great family support. He and his wife expecting. I love hearing him talk about that and how special that has been to him, and how golf is his job, but it's not the most important thing in his life. How he maintains his focus, doesn't go on social media, right? Because he doesn't want to, either grow his head with the things that are good or make him feel bad about the things that are bad. Like everything he has said, I love, and so he is now officially my favorite player on the PGA Tour. I love him.
Look, I got to agree with you. I don't know if he's my favorite, but certainly I like watching Scottie Scheffler, like following him, especially like rooting for him. Mm-hmm. He's definitely the kind of guy you can get behind. You want to see do well. You want to see good things happen to. And I second everything that you just said. On top of the fact that, if in the second season of Full Swing, you learn about how important the mental game is to golfers.
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
Every pro golfer can flush the golf ball. They can make the golf ball do almost whatever they want every time when they're in the zone, right? But getting in the zone, figuring out that mental component, and also how do you cope when you're down, right? That's something like Jordan Spieth doesn't do well, right? Gets himself in these rabbit holes.
Mm-hmm. JT, I don't think JT does that particularly well.
Talks themselves into more bad things because they're in a bad headspace. And that has a huge impact on a sport that requires such fine motor skills and quick twitch muscles, all of that stuff, where if your head's not in the right space, if you don't have confidence in yourself, it's never going to work out well. But Scottie Scheffler just went through a terrible period in his career where he was hitting the ball incredibly well, but couldn't putt to save his life. As a matter of fact, if he would have had the strokes gained putting that he did over the last 2 weeks, he probably would have won 6 or 8 golf tournaments last year.
Yep. Including the Tour Championship.
Yes,
at the end. Yep.
Exactly. So the mental toughness to be able to come back from something like that, basically having the putting yips, to come back and just dominate again, find what you were missing. That is mental toughness.
I heard someone, and this is a good thing for all of us, Drew. I heard someone say on the radio, he leaned into his weakness.
Yeah.
Right? Like he didn't just say, oh, this is a weakness, I'm going to avoid it. No, this is a weakness. I'm going to put everything, I'm going to go all in to make this weakness a strength. And he did that. You're right. The mental, and I'm going to bring up one more thing on the mental game because Wyndham Clark was involved in that episode a lot on the mental game. What he did on Saturday, it was the Saturday round on the 17th, the Island Green.
Yep.
Hits
Complete
a chunk shot into the water that looked like I hit it.
Yeah.
Like, right? That's an absolute shot that some hacker on the weekend catches it 2 inches behind the ball. And I'm like, oh, this is it. Like, you don't recover from a shot. I don't recover from a shot. Like, nobody recovers
It's
from
embarrassing,
a shot like
especially
that.
in front of all those people.
Embarrassing, national television, last group, all those people. For him to step up in that same spot, didn't go to the drop area, step up in that same spot and bury that next shot 6 feet and go up and make the putt for a 4. Listen, if that putt wouldn't have had that lip out that it did on Sunday, which was one of the most vicious lip outs I've ever seen, that was the reason he was in that tournament. That could have been a double, triple bogey.
Yep.
Easy.
Yep.
Easy. Mm-hmm. And I think Wyndham's mental game before this year, it very well might have been. But for him to step up and hit that shot, unless you've played that sport, unless you've been around sports, unless you understand what that took mentally, you don't appreciate how good that really was.
All right, let me ask you this. Does the Scottie Scheffler era require an asterisk?
Because the live guys aren't there?
Right. If Scottie Scheffler is going up this week against John Rahm,
no,
Dustin Johnson,
here's why I say no,
and all these other and the other tournaments.
Here's why I say no, because he beat those guys before.
Yeah,
he was winning before those guys left. He won a Masters while those guys were still competing, Rahm and those. So I say no. The other reason I say no is if you watch him play, he shot at the Players. Mm-hmm. He shot 3 under to finish Saturday, and didn't make a bogey.
Yeah.
On Sunday. Played through pain, actually had to have treatment on the course to play through pain on Friday, and then goes out and his last 21 holes, shot, what was it, 11 under,
Yep.
11 under par. I don't care who you're playing against.
Yep.
That's big time golf.
Well, and look, for the players for sure. I don't know. I think there's always going to be a lingering question in my mind until they figure this whole thing out. What golf would be like if you really had the best in the sport going.
Remember,
head-to-head.
Brooks Koepka never won any regular PGA events really anyway.
He never focused on him.
Right.
If you
So
listen to Brooks, he never.
unless you're going up against Brooks in a major, you
Right.
don't really know. Dustin Johnson, was similar, where he would have these weeks where he just would be not engaged.
Yeah, but Dustin Johnson won on tour in something like 12 straight years.
And then when he got focused on something, then he had that kind of mentality. But the big one is Rahm, right? The other big one to me
Taylor Gooch?
is no, not Taylor Gooch. It's
Joaquin Neiman?
Cam Smith.
Oh, okay.
The Open champion, and also was putting in a lot of top fives on tour. So, Rahm and Smith, and then, who knows how these young guys would have turned out. But if you don't, the great thing about the players this past week, it really showed the beauty of the 4-day round. And so my asterisk will always come when we talk about live. I know they're playing professionals, they're playing big time golf courses. I get all that, but that extra day, ask Scottie Scheffler what that extra day meant, because the first 3 days he's 5 back.
Well, but also ask Sanders
Right.
Shoffley what it meant too.
Right? Absolutely, right? So that extra day is real. And at some point, these live guys, when they play in the majors, they're going to feel that.
Yeah.
I truly believe it. Maybe not yet, because they're just kind of coming off tour. Rahm's just coming off tour. But at some point, they're going to feel that extra day in their game and their mental focus. I truly believe that.
All right, man. We think we got all covered.
Absolutely. Can't wait to do it again next
By the way,
week.
Major League Baseball season started this morning.
Yeah, Josh is not happy because he's likes the Padres, and they blew it in the 8th inning, so I already got that disappointed.
Shohei Ohtani breaking the ceiling in Seoul off of a foul ball.
Absolutely. We've started great in MLB, baby. And tonight, I don't know when this will be aired, but here it's a Wednesday night as we're recording. The Bedford has their first varsity baseball action tonight.
All right, let's go.
Let's go.
All right. Well, that's generally assembled for this week. You can find this podcast where your favorite House Republican podcasts are found, www.pahousegop.com/mypodcasts. Also available on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. All right. That's it for Representative Topper, Chairman Topper. I'm Jason Gottesman. This has been Generally Assembled. That's it.